Hey everyone, welcome to a strangely recorded version of Books and Brew. We tried this a few times and honestly, I think this may be a little more compact way to do it. And so what we'd like to talk about today, one of my favorite races in D&D is the Genasi. Do you know what a Genasi is?
I mean, like, raw definition? I thought you were, like, born of the elements.
That's actually kind of accurate. A lot of people, whenever they think about the Genasi, they immediately think that it sounds like Genie, or they sort of read a little bit about it and immediately think that, okay, that means you're of a Genie kin. Yes and no. It is an option where you can definitely say that you came from a Genie kind. So whether you came from a Tao, an Afridi, a Myriad, or anything of the sorts. So that is one option.
A djinn.
A djinn? Yeah, djinn. Or a djinn. You can choose that option when it comes to creating your Genasi. Another option is that you don't necessarily have to have Genie blood in you, or any sort of connection to Genie kind. You can simply say that your Genasi gained some sort of elemental energy, or was infused with some sort of elemental magic, some sort of wild storm that occurred during their birth. So I wanted to spend a little bit of sort of this little pilot episode thinking of different ways one could become a Genie, or a Genasi, I should say. I love the idea of a individual who was born different and who was looked at differently in some certain way. So I definitely took the route that my water Genasi was born from two humans, and during a very strong elemental storm next to a pier or some sort of port town anywhere close to the ocean, it affected him during birth. So he was actually being born during an elemental storm, and his name is Bolide Saw. My final vision of him was a multi-class of a astral self monk with a Circle of the Stars druid, because he was a worshiper of the Lady of Dreams, who's a very moon-like elven god who has to deal with constellations and night skies and dreams. And I wanted, looking out in an ocean that was very calm and you can see the stars reflecting on the water, was very much Bolide. And that's how I made him, was that he was like a castaway. The parents didn't really know what to do with the blue baby and kind of kicked him off to the side, and he had to sort of become in the story, I made him a beach hobo. And I made it there was a dark moment, because again, this is, as you mentioned before, this is the character I played in our weekend sessions. In his backstory was a dark moment where he didn't know what he was. During one really lonely night on the beach, because he was living on the beach constantly, he decided to drown himself. And water Genasis, by nature, they can breathe underwater. Water Genasi have a few awesome abilities. They can breathe underwater. They have a swimming speed equal to they have, I think, a swimming speed of 30 feet. When it comes to Genasi kin, they get a +2 to con. Every Genasi gets that. And Water Genasi specifically also get a +1 to wisdom, which is perfect for a monk. In addition to that, they're also resistant to acid damage, and at first level they know the Shape Water cantrip, and by third level they know the Create or Destroy Water spell. Very useful. And so essentially I made him realize that maybe killing himself was not the best idea, and he was sort of contacted by this god, and the god told him, go to a monastery, get yourself and dedicate yourself and learn how to be good, essentially. And yeah, that's Bolide.
I'm just laughing because we both made monks, but the only reason I had made mine a monk was because we were going over the new class in Tasha's. Yeah. So that's how she became a monk. But no, I have a fire Genasi monk. I forget that class now.
Mercy.
Yeah, the Way of Mercy monk. But I did the opposite of you. I made it because I was thinking of I don't want her to be Genie-kin, just because that could be so complicated.
Yeah.
So I was just they live, her family lived on an island, but they lived near a volcano that was assumed to be dormant. But when she was born, that eruption went off, and that's how she came to be as a fire genasi monk, but she's named Phoenix because Phoenix supposedly rise from the ashes, and that's why I named her Phoenix. But no, I made it that her parents were very loving of her, but that the rest of the town wasn't, because they didn't know what the hell she was. Like, her parents were just like, I'm glad to have a baby, I don't care what it looks like, but, you know, everybody else may look at you a little funny.
They were more supportive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I didn't really tie in anything how she went into the
Monastery, or
yeah, the monastery. I just made it that she wanted some discipline, and that's what she knew of, like, just so she could not control, but wouldn't let voices get in her head, so to speak. So she was more of like a disciplined, quiet person. Like, yeah, you can say whatever you're gonna say, but it's gonna go pretty much over and not absorbed into this, so it doesn't affect me. But that's about it.
Yeah, Phoenix. Well, I know for fire genasis, specifically because we have Moscow within our main campaign. So fire genasis, obviously, once again, they get a +2 to con when it comes to character creation, and then they get a base +1 to intelligence. They also, unlike water genasis, they do get a dark vision, so they can see. They don't really necessarily have dark vision the same way that others do. The way that dark vision usually works is that they can, a person with dark vision can look into a dark room that has very, very, very little light, and they'll see like maybe a shade gray of the room inside.
Yeah,
it's very hard to see colors without any sort of light. Fire genasis do the same thing. However, everything they see is in a shade of red.
Yeah, didn't know that.
Yeah, it's actually something that's sort of tied to the fire elemental plane, is that it makes their dark vision very unique. And I think, honestly, fire genasis may be the only classes or races that have that...
See like that?
Yeah, that have that unique feature for something that's so mundane nowadays in D&D. Other than that, there's also the Earth Genasi. I've had this character in the works for a while now. Obviously, I'm probably not going to use him for my main campaign, but Earth Genasis are really, really awesome. They come from the Tao, or you can say that they came from some sort of elemental like earthquake or like a mudslide or something along that has to deal with like earth, or maybe like you were born within like a crystal cavern, underground. You're born underground where like a bunch of like really intense elemental energy sort of collides. I had an idea for an Earth Genasi who was a life cleric, and the idea is that he would always have these small protrusions and things that stick out of his skin, and they were small green gems that would stick out of him. So he would be like, not shirtless, yeah, in a sense, like small jade and things like that. His full name was Chrysopine, which is actually a gem, and so I split it up to Chris, and it has like a Y, Chris Opine. So he was almost like an Irish, the way I made him was that he came from the Earth elemental plane. He was one of many children of this Tao. An Earth Genie. His favorite thing to do, though, since he had so many siblings, was to like get in like bare knuckle brawls and sort of fight in like, not like I'm gonna beat you and then make fun of you, more like I beat you, damn, that was really good, do you want to go another round? Is that something you want to do? Like, is that fun? And they would just like, it would be like the drunken brawls of like an Irish pub. And he just loved to fight, and not like fight with weapons. Like he would like, I don't throw that down. I don't give it to him.
He's gonna be another monk?
No. So
I know you said cleric, but I was like, that sounds like another monk.
It sounds like another monk, but like he would be like, I'm totally down to fight. Like if essentially the way I made it was that when it comes down to like fighting for fun, he doesn't want to use any weapons. When it comes to like fighting for survival, he has to he was trained for it. To use weapons and armor, and so Chris he was transported by some sort of mistake into the material plane, and now he has to find his way back. He actually enjoys his life in the Earth elemental plane, so a lot of The material plane is very like new to him and kind of weird because in the Earth elemental plane there's no sky. You know, it's just constant earth and gems and small pockets of like places you can live and like tunnels that go endlessly in different directions. So a lot of it's like he sees rains for the first time and he's like, that's weird. It's water's like I've seen water in caves, but not like falling like this. So definitely has a fear of flying and heights because it's like it's being that far away from the ground is very weird to him. That was the idea of an Earth Genie who was of a life domain, was that he was like this really nice guy that wanted to heal you guys, and he would heal you very well because he brought his own like healing stuff. Obviously it would have no value, you know, because it's not actual gems, it's just like parts of his body. That was Crystopine, that was an Earth Genasi, and obviously that was more leaning towards kind of liking your Genie side, you know. he was like, yeah, my dad you know, rules a you know, a big portion of the Earth domain, you know, or the Earth plane, so I'm totally fine with going back and being with my family and stuff. Actually, before I get into the Earth Genies or Earth Genasis, they have a +1 to their strength score in addition to the +2 con, which kind of makes sense for when I thought of for Crystopine, because he's obviously a fighter. He likes to get into brawls, so he's pretty strong. In addition, Earth Genasis have a thing called Earth Walk. They can move across difficult terrain of earth or stone without expending extra movement. So if there is like uneven terrain or sort of like loose sand or dirt or something like that, they could just walk like nothing. And lastly, they can use Pass Without a Trace at first level. They gain access to that. And I think Pass Without a Trace is like a second level.
I think so, yeah.
So they gain that at first. They can cast it once per long rest. They could just do it. They can, like, when you're walking through the forest, they can make sure that the dirt and ground you step on, like, almost squish with you.
They don't have tremor sense, right?
No, they don't. No. Good question. Air Genasis are kind of like, I mean, they're very, like, all these Genasis are very comparable to, like, the idea of Avatar, where, like, you know, water Genasis are very wise, which is why they get a +1 to wisdom, you know, very calm. Earth Genasis are very strong and sturdy individuals. They get a +1 to strength. Fire Genasis are very cunning and they're very tactical, and that's why they get a +1 in intelligence. Air Genasis.
Maybe it's not a bad thing I made her a monk.
Air Genasis are very loose and quick-footed, and that's actually kind of funny because that gets into like what they can do. And they get a +1 to dexterity. They get a thing called unending breath. They can hold their breath and they can just hold it indefinitely. And as long as they don't get like hit to lose their breath, or they're not incapacitated, like knocked unconscious, they can just hold their breath. They also have a thing called Mingle with the Wind. They can cast the Levitate spell once, and they can do it once per long rest. So yeah, and that makes sense too, since obviously Levitate is something you would think an Air Genasi can do. They can sort of fly.
Hover
or something. It says here, some Air Genasi speak with a breathy voice, almost like faint echoes, which is 100% not the direction I took for Gina Lee, who is our NPC Air Genasi.
She's a valley girl.
Very valley girl. Obviously, I don't want to get too deep into Gina Lee because she's an NPC who has her own story, and players have not, you know, fully
figured it out yet.
Not like figured it out, but like they haven't really talked to her about her own backstory.
No.
They have talked to her a little bit, and so the way that Gina Lee has described herself was that she grew up to the south, sort of like southeast of the continent within the kingdom. A very smart woman, though very socially airheaded. I'll admit it, she doesn't really have a high charisma score, but she kind of makes up with it just by being herself.
I mean, you wouldn't be able to tell.
Yeah, and that's the great thing, is that her score is low, but the way she conducts herself is very like, no, it's okay. Like she's very honest. She did go to an academy, learned how to be an enchanter, essentially can breathe magic into these weapons and things, not like an ability, but if you wanted to symbolize it or sort of put it into a metaphor, she can breathe magic into these things and sort of put it into like, I want to enchant the sword. Okay, and you've never seen her work.
No, we just give her stuff to work on.
You give her stuff, you give her a job, and you leave. So essentially, she is breathing magic into like whatever she's crafting or creating.
Should have made her a glass blower. That could be one of her things she does.
I did have an idea for an Air Genasi who is an Arcane Archer, which is a fighter subclass. And they specifically get an ability where you can do what's called like tracer arrows. So if you take a shot and you miss, you can use the tracer arrow to have it redirect and hit someone. Or if they go like behind a corner, as long as you saw them within a minute, the tracer arrow will shoot out. It's a seeker arrow. It's called seeker. It'll come out and it'll like turn a corner or turn another corner and try to find the guy. Because as long as you see him within a minute, it'll find him. Which is really cool. And I think they also get abilities where like, if you shoot one person, you can use a reaction to waver the arrow a bit to the side and hit someone else. So you can hit two people in one shot. And the whole idea was that this Air Genasi was like a marksman, you know, a very famous marksman. And even if he doesn't hit you, he can kind of like blow the wind and it'll turn the arrow in a different way. Yeah, I mean, Air Genasis can be created from like an elemental charged tornado, or maybe just like a soft, like a very strange.
What if you did like an elemental spell and you're just like within the vicinity?
Oh, like control weather or something?
Yeah, like a high level, not like a little. I mean, at least probably 4th or higher.
That would be a really cool idea for a campaign, or like not a campaign, but like
a character.
Yeah. So like imagine,
I mean, like you're an infant. To you, that's powerful.
Imagine that. This is the idea that went through my mind. Imagine you are, you know, there is a town. There's like multiple towns surrounding this cliffside, right? Mm-hmm. And a very powerful druid, because I think druids can cast this at like at 8th level. I think it control weather is an 8th level spell. By that time, by 8th level, when you can cast 8th level spells, you're very high level.
I'm almost there. I'm 7th. I can hit 7th level spells.
Standing on top of the a mountain does control weather and just clears out a giant gust storm, blows away whatever storm clouds were there, and this elemental charged spell wafts out and covers the entire surrounding area and towns. And maybe you like the wind pushes too fast and sort of ignites a bit of a fire, you know, sort of far away. Yeah. Or maybe like the storm clouds now are push and collect and start to rain down on another town. Or maybe like a big dust cloud ends up covering another town. So you can make it like one. That'd be really cool for like.
You made multiple.
You made multiple Genasis with ones, like different ones. That'd be a really cool character backstory, is that you believe you're the only Genasi, and then it turns out that the neighboring towns all have different ones, and they were born on the same day you were. And you're like, how is that possible? And then you soon to find out that this druid created you all.
It's like, whoops.
Yeah, and they didn't even mean to. They were just like, I was just clearing out the storm that was affecting everyone. I didn't know it was going to do that.
What's up, buddy?
But yeah, so I think that's going to be it for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully you enjoyed our little bit of rambling, and hopefully some of these backstories and just creative ways to get started with a Genasi inspire you, and hopefully they gave you some options. Any other thing you want to say? No?
Have fun making one.
Yeah. Let us know what kind of Genasi you
Report back on to what it came out to.
Maybe you could say you create something, a mixture, like an earth and a water Genasi.
Yeah, I was going to say like a half-half.
And you make a mud Genasi. You don't know.
I want to make a mud Genasi.
Alright, latest.
Bye.